Subscribe to Teckoh on YouTube or you will forever be a bot at Fortnite.
Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So, as you probably know, W-King is a skill every single top level player needs to have nowadays. If you're not able to push players and pick up kills quickly, then you're not going to see nearly as much success in-game as you would otherwise. So, with that said, in this video, I'll be giving you some of the best tips to consistently drop high kill games, whether you're playing a tournament, arena, or simply playing public matches. If you watch this video the whole way through and put everything I say into practice, I guarantee you will be dropping high kill games in no time. But anyway, with that said, be sure to drop a like on the video if you enjoy it, consider subscribing if you'd like to see more content just like this, and let's get straight into it. So, the first thing you should know when W-keying is that mythic weapons and items will be your best friends. Personally, when I'm trying to W-key and drop high kills, like I am in the gameplay you're watching right now, I typically land at the authority. The reasoning behind this is really simple. There are three main reasons I like to land at this spot. First, quite obviously, is the fact that I can get a lot of kills off spawn from the players trying to land here. If you can find a drop, even one with only a chest or two, then you'll probably have enough loot to outgun most players off spawn. The second reason I like to land at the authority is because it's directly in the center of the map. If you're W-keying and land somewhere towards the middle of the map, you'll be able to rotate much easier into the zone and continue W-keying when you get in. But if you land at a POI on the edge of the map and the zone is far, then you can enjoy playing Running Simulator 2020 for the rest of the game. And the final reason I love landing at the authority, and the one you're probably expecting, is for the Mythic Grappler and Drum Gun. You'll notice in the gameplay later on in the video that I use the Mythic Grappler an absolute ton, to not only rotate super quick, but to push in for kills after getting damage off. And I also use the Drum Gun to basically hop in boxes and finish up kills quickly. Seriously though, Mythic Weapons are so OP this season, and even if it's something other than the Grappler and Drum Gun, try to get some sort of Mythic Weapon during your W-key games to finish up fights faster and give yourself an edge. Alright guys, so next up I'll be talking about one of the most important aspects of W-keying, which is getting comfortable doing it. Most great W-keyers like Av, Scoped, and Mr. Savage all got better at W-keying by simply doing it. The thing about W-keying is that you have to be completely comfortable with doing it and have experience doing so. Now, I used to completely suck at W-keying. I was a total placement warrior and had really solid game sense, but I'd get way too nervous during fights and just generally sucked at fighting and W-keying in game, which seriously held me back. What I personally did to improve at W-keying, and what I recommend all of you do, is to hop into a game and literally W-key everybody. I don't care how bad your loot is, how low your materials are, or anything else. All you should be doing is pushing every single player regardless of your situation, and if you die, you die. Just to warn you ahead of time, you'll probably die a lot, but that's fine because this is practice. I'd recommend doing this in arena so you can be matched up with solid players and also have Siphon to help you out. Unless, obviously, you're worried about losing points, which can be a concern for some of you, but for me it's not, so I like to do it in arena. If you W-key everybody you run into, this will help you adapt to a ton of different situations and types of players, which will make you way better at W-keying in the long run. Just keep in mind when you're doing it that losses are inevitable when you're pushing everyone you see, so you really shouldn't be worried about losing when you do this. There are multiple benefits to doing this W-key everyone you see thing. The main reason I like it personally is because, first, it forces you into a bunch of different types of fights and situations, which will help you get comfortable with them and in turn help you perform better in those situations in the future. But it also helps you become more confident against even pretty good players. The lack of any pressure when you're W-keying and not trying to play for the win allows you to play with way more confidence and will make you realize that you're actually better at the game than you think you are. If you consistently do this and practice W-keying in this way, it'll end up sort of merging with your usual gameplay and it'll make a massive difference in how many fights you end up winning. The next topic I'd like to quickly touch on is tunnel vision. You've probably heard the term before because it's a topic that a lot of people cover when they talk about W-keying. If you're often the victim of third parties, get snuck up on, get overtaken by the storm, or anything along those lines during your fights, then there's a chance you've got a tunnel visioning issue. It's important to always be aware of your situation pretty much the entire game, regardless of whether you're playing for placement, playing for kills, or whatever playstyle you're going for. But, quite obviously, it's easier said than done. A lot of us have the tendency to focus completely on one thing when there's so much more to think about, and end up getting killed because of it. What you need to do is learn how to pay attention to everything equally, from your ammo to your materials, other players, the storm, and the person you're fighting against. There is one pretty easy solution that comes to mind when talking about tunnel vision. It's not really the easiest to do, but it absolutely works. The solution is to simply practice better situational awareness, which is basically the opposite of tunnel visioning. To do this, you have to essentially force yourself to continue looking around and paying attention to your surroundings and your other inventory, loadout type stuff, even when you're in an engagement. If you focus on this for a while, it'll start to become a sort of habit and really start to stick with you. I'd like to say, however, that ending fights quickly plays a huge role in this. If your fights are long and drawn out, then you'll end up running into tunnel vision issues quite often because you simply get so into it where it's hard to snap out. This happens to even some of the best players, which is why you see them try to end their fights as fast as they possibly can. To get better at ending fights quickly, you really just have to hold the pressure on your opponent for the entirety of the fight. You'll notice in the background gameplay that my fights usually don't last a crazy long time. For the most part, with one or two exceptions, I simply get in and get out. This is a very difficult skill to master, but if you can get good at ending your fights faster, then you'll not only be able to get way more kills in the span of a game, but your tunnel vision issue will improve quite a bit as well. Another really important aspect of my fights when I W key, and the fights of pretty much anyone who W keys super well, is the actual initiation of the fight. I'm sure a lot of you have heard the term pre-fight damage before, but if you haven't, it basically refers to any damage you get on your opponent before actually engaging in a fight. The issue a lot of players have when it comes to initiating fights is that they sneak up on their opponent and get some pre-fight damage off, but then they give their opponent time to heal up and reset. All of the best W keyers are the people who continue the pressure on their opponents after that pre-fight damage. Once again, referring back to my own gameplay, in a lot of these fights, I'm getting a really nice beam with my AR, then instantly pulling out my grappler to get the opponent without giving them any time to heal up or reset themselves. Nowadays, with fish in the game that take 1 second to pop, chug splashes which you can basically just throw down, and other super quick healing items, it's absolutely crucial that you continue putting on pressure as heavily as possible so your opponent has no time to do anything. Every second you give your opponent is a second that they can be healing, resetting their mental and calming down, or reloading and getting ready to fight you. So next time you're pushing another player, make sure to keep the pressure on so they have no time to heal up and reset. Finally, the last thing in this video that I want to talk about is creative. Now, my stance on creative has shifted a ton in the past, but I'm starting to believe more and more that creative is actually one of the most crucial things to be good at in order to become a very good player. With pretty much every player in the game starting to have solid game sense, the biggest factor that separates pros and your average players definitely relates to your actual fighting skill. And honestly, creative is one of the best ways to develop that fighting skill. With amazing new maps like realistic 1v1s and box fights to public queue zone wars and so much more, creative has repeatedly proven itself to be one of the most helpful tools to improve at Fortnite. I used to think creative warriors were just average in-game players, but with the insane amounts of mobility in the game now and the decreasing skill gap when it comes to game sense, it really seems like creative warriors are the new top tier players. And honestly, it's been that way for a while. The top pros in the world are almost all the ones who have the best mechanics and can probably absolutely smack me in a creative 1v1. So honestly, as hard as this is to say, considering how much crap I've talked about creative warriors in the past, being good in creative is one of the most important traits you can have as a player. And before you say something like, I'm good at creative but I don't place in tournaments, I'm here to tell you that no, you're not as good at creative as you think. I know that's a bit blunt, but it's just the truth. You might be able to triple edit a few times or crank out some insane high ground retakes, but unless you can take these into an actual 1v1 situation and use them, then they're totally useless. To put it simply, fast builds and edits don't make you a good player. Instead, being able to actually win fights makes you a good player. So instead of mindlessly cranking in creative and wondering why you're not getting better, Focus on the forms of creative practice that allow you to actually fight another player, and grind these forms of practice over and over against actual good players. Focus on winning your fights instead of being flashy and over the top. If you do this and also practice W keying in arena and or tournaments as well, I guarantee you will improve faster than you ever have. But with that said, everyone, I hope you enjoyed this video. W keying in Fortnite is a very hard skill to develop, but if you can master mythic locations and weapons, get comfortable with different W key situations, avoid tunnel vision, get good at initiating fights and maintaining pressure, and use creative effectively to improve, then you'll see a ton of progress in not only your W keying ability, but your overall skill level as well. I really hope you all enjoyed this video. If you enjoy my content and would like to go the extra mile to help support me, then consider using code Teckoh in the Fortnite item shop. It's completely free and it genuinely means a lot to me when you guys use it. It helps more than you think it does. But with all that said, be sure to drop a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe and turn on post notifications to see more content just like this, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye for now.